Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. You can find us online at hancepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at Best Storyteller Podcast, and we love hearing from you. Feel free to email us, info@hancepodcast.com. Chancellor Hance, what is your saying of the day?
Bury the dead and move on. That's what happens to you when something goes wrong on your goals or your execution. Just put it behind you. It failed. Just go on to the next thing. You know, when I die, I hope a lot of people are upset, but I want them to move on, you know, and tell some Kent Hance stories and have a good time. But I think that's a tough saying, but the truth of the matter is when there's been a failure in something, bury the dead and move on.
Today, we're going to talk about some things that I know that are important to you, Chancellor Hance, and those include getting good information, setting goals, and problem solving.
In day-to-day life, we're going to have problems, and you got to be able to solve problems. You got to be able to think through them, and you've got to be able to have correct information, and you have to look for solutions. Many times there are more than one solution, you know, but maybe it's not worth it. I always think back to someone said we couldn't win a war in Afghanistan. That's not true. We could win a war, but do we want to put 5 million troops in there? No. There have been a lot of wars started because they had wrong information. You look at the Gulf of Tonkin, that really created the Vietnam War. They said we'd been fired on by the North Vietnamese, and that was not true. If you look at the war in Iraq, that information was from the time it left Iraq until the time it got to President Bush, there were like 12 different people handled it, and it was incorrect information. You think of the CIA and the FBI having the best information available, and you look at some of their incidents, and they've missed on the information. They're trying to get the best. The closer you are to the source of the information, the better information you're going to have. Just like in business, if you know the owner of the plumbing company that works on, you're going to have better service than if you don't know them at all. And so the closer to the power you are, the better your information is going to be, the better service you're going to get. And the closer you are to the source of information, you're going to have a lot better information to make judgments on. We all make judgments every day on facts and figures that we're given. But if you're given wrong information, you're going to have wrong conclusions. And we've seen that happen time and time again when people just were given bad information. I represented a cowboy, and he was pulling a horse trailer, and he was going from Dalhart to Amarillo. And he got pulled over because his truck and his trailer were weaving. And he got out and he walked back toward the policeman. The policeman said he staggered and that appeared to, be drunk. And so when he came in to see me, I thought there's something wrong with him because he walked funny, and I didn't know if he'd been drinking then or not. And I asked him about it, and he was in Australia and trying to get a real close shot of a koala bear, and he fell out of a tree and broke both his legs. And the doctor that set his legs didn't do a real good job. And the reason he swerved, the wind was out of the north, and he was going across the plains on the highway, and there were a couple of elevators, grain elevators, on the north side of the highway, and that wind stops when it hits there. And so you hit two places that are a lull, and your vehicle's going to swerve. So we had a story to tell that made sense. Mm-hmm. And if you're a lawyer, I had a law professor tell me, always have a hook so they can hang their coat on it. And that's your story. That's a believable story and a true story.
Not guilty?
Not guilty. Walked him out of the courtroom. That's a saying that criminal defense lawyers have, that when you get somebody found not guilty, you say, I walked him out of the courtroom.
Do you literally walk them out?
Yeah, you walk them out right then.
Shake hands and go your own way.
Yeah. You thank the judge, thank the jury, and get on down the road.
You ever get Christmas cards from some of these guys? I
had a guy, and I represented him on a sale of LSD, in Amarillo in 1971. And everyone that had been caught selling drugs in Amarillo went to the prison. And he got charged. I started working with him. He turned his life around. He got active in his church. He quit doing drugs. And we had a good story to tell, and they gave him probation. And for probably 30 years, I got a Christmas card him every year, and it'd just say, "Merry Christmas, thank you," in his name. And the judge, Mary Lou Robinson, who went on to become a federal judge, she got a Christmas card from him every year.
Wow.
And I'd see her at judicial conferences, and she said, "You still getting your Christmas card?" And I said, "Yep." If somebody to help me not go to prison, I'd send them a Christmas card too. One of the things that when you're making decisions, I know when I was a young criminal defense lawyer, I always called it, "Who shot John?" Get all the facts. I think back to when I represented a guy in a divorce case in Lubbock. And I asked him, this was back in the 70s, when being unfaithful in a marriage could be an issue in a divorce case. And I'd heard rumors, and I asked him if there was anything true to it. And he said no, that he had never messed around. And then we go to trial, and the third witness came in the courtroom carrying a projector and a screen. And I think, we're fixing to see a movie. And I leaned back and I said, "What's this about?" And he said, "I don't know." And so the movie was of him in a car in a Mustang convertible. You could see him, and they emphasized the license plate so you knew whose car it was. And he goes to this apartment, and he goes up and knocks on this door, and a lady, scantily clad, negligee, comes to the door and hugs him and kisses him, and they go inside, and they're gone 2 hours and 20 minutes, and he comes out, and he doesn't have on a coat and tie. They're over his shoulder, and she's got on a T-shirt. And he leaned up to me, and he said, "Somebody looks like me, don't he?" The reason he looked like him, it was him. If you don't have all the facts, you can't make the right decision. And I'm not talking about just trying cases. I'm trying to make sure you understand that if you're going to create a business, get all the facts that you need to be able to create that business. Because if you don't have the facts, you can't make good decisions. Herb Kelleher, who started Southwest Airlines, was a good friend of mine, passed away a couple of years ago, but he was talking to a baggage claimer, baggage handler, and Herb Kelleher told me that the baggage handler told him, "If you'll get us one more person down here, we can turn these planes around in 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes. And he said, "I think that we make more money when the planes are in the air." And he said, "That's right." So he tried it, and he said they could turn those planes around by having one more person handle baggage. And they had, and sometimes it's changed a little, but they had a rule that Southwest, they were trying to turn those planes in 20 minutes. And that's pretty fast, but it gets them making more money. They have more flights in a day. And I think of another story of getting good information. When General Motors went broke, President Obama called Ed Whitaker, my friend from San Antonio, who had been CEO and chairman of the board of AT&T for 18 years, to ask him to take over and run General Motors. And Whitaker's response was, "I'm a telephone man. I'm not a car man." And they said, "Well, we need you. You know how to run a company." And he agreed to take the job, and he had been there about 2 weeks. And he went to the United Auto Workers headquarters and walked in and asked to see the president. Didn't have an appointment or anything. And the woman said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Ed Whitaker." And she looked up at him and said, "Are you the new guy over at General Motors?" He said, "Yeah." She said, "Just a second." And, within minutes, the president of the United Auto Workers came out and said, "We've never had an officer of General Motors or to come to our offices to talk to us." And Ed went back and sat down with him and said, "If we don't survive, then it doesn't matter what happens. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to survive, then the stockholders, the workers, everybody's got to be on the same team." And they pulled together and saved General Motors. It's a great company, and it worked out. But they had to be they had to communicate to them. They had to be on the same team.
Chancellor, we've talked about the importance of getting information and getting good information, but I know that goals are also very important to you.
I think every young person, and of course everyone, but every young person needs to have goals. And the sooner you decide what you want to do in life, the better the chances that you're going to accomplish it. When I was 11 or 12 years old, my mother took me to a town hall meeting where Walter Rogers, the congressman from our district, was there and spoke. And I watched him, and I watched how people treated him and how he answered questions. And I said, boy, that's a job I want. So if I'm making decisions when I'm 11 and 12 on about what I want to do, then it's easier to get there. Now, I tell people, don't be concerned if you don't do that. Some people do not get focused, but they still are highly successful. My good friend in El Paso, Paul Foster, who's on Forbes' billionaire list, he had 4 jobs in 3 years when he got out of college. Now, that's not a sign of stability, but he finally got the right job, and he was kind of wandering around, but he found the right thing, and he made adjustments. He went to work for a company that went bankrupt, and that they fired the CEO, and he got hired as CFO the week before. And so the banks had to have somebody running the company. It was a refinery business, and so they had him running it, and he went around trying to raise money, and he went over to, he appealed to more than 75 banks to try to loan him money. Finally went back to the people that had the debt and said, look, loan me enough money to get this going and give me 2 years to turn it around. And they did it, and in less than 18 months, the market turned, and he paid them all off in less than 18 months. And he had Western Refining, and he was listed in Forbes as $2.4 billion net worth. But you got to have goals. After you have those goals, go out and execute. It's as simple as that. That life is not complicated. People make it complicated. They make it a drama when it doesn't need to be a drama. It's simple and to the point. You set goals, you work hard, you be honest with people, and you're going to have a lot of great results.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation and want to hear more, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the podcast. We have episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you don't want to miss out. And if you know someone who would love the show, share it with them too. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.